it's me, and we're chilling once again. I figured, why think about it or talk about it when I could just do it? So here I am, streaming once again. We're gonna change it up a little bit. Lifestyle has to change a little bit for a few months here as I recover from I had surgery on my shoulder here. But the brain hasn't stopped a minute in this whole process, and I'm really excited to kind of just keep the channel going and move on to the next phase, which is dungeon mastering and tying that in with Dungeon Alchemist and showing you the process in which that works. But first we have to create a story, and that's kind of what I've invited all of you here to do with me tonight. So please join in, grab yourself a nice warm beverage, and it might be a little dry, but I think world building tends to be, which is why I think it's nice to maybe have a friend nearby to bounce an idea off of, or just chirp something that you've been thinking to see how it sits in the world. So without further ado, we're gonna start diving into this world build here. Let's see. So let's get our capture up, so I can show you. You can read along with what I'm reading if you want. I like reading out loud. It makes me retain things a bit firmer, I think. So where are we going? I've put a lot of thought into this. I've looked around the Sword Coast. I've looked off of the Sword Coast. I've found quite a few different places that I like. I have run a campaign already in this realm, this lore. So I feel like Daggerford is the answer I've settled with, and the reason being for that is I like the concept, or the unfinished idea that we have here. And what I mean by that is, we'll read through Daggerford a little bit. I've already read through a bit, and I'll kind of show you what I mean. But as opposed to, say, its neighbor, Waterdeep, or a little bit further down south on the coast, Baldur's Gate, these are places that are very well established. They have a lot of stories and tales and history, right? They've made it, if you will. So I feel like Daggerford in that conversation hasn't quite yet made it. And what will happen when they reach that precipice? And will the players be the ones pushing that narrative? And I think these are the questions that I want to be asking in my campaign. So let me track down my pen. It's very important to be able to, there it is, write down what we're thinking. And I'm trying to do a lot of this in typed format. So we'll just see where we go. But let's read. Let's get into this a bit. La dun da, la da. So actually, let me just minimize that, because I like doing it the way I was doing it before, just having the mobile dashboard. It's really easy to see the chat and just kind of be a part of the stream with y'all. Let's see, stream manage, chat throwing up. Hey yo, okay. So Daggerford. What is Daggerford? Where is Daggerford? Let's look at the map. So you see on the Sword Coast, Daggerford sits just off of the coast. It is abutting a river. It is damn near close to the coast. So it could be considered a coastal city, especially because it has the outlet from the river. Arguably, it might even be a more logistically safer place for a city to exist, because it isn't exposed to the coastline. It has a more strategic position, if you will. But in that sense, I feel like it would take a bit more for that industry of water and ships to be created, as it's a tighter, more intricate vessel as opposed to the ocean, which is bigger, vast, a lot more options, right? So maybe that has contributed to the lack of success. Excuse me, the lack of success at Daggerford. Maybe it's just a timing thing. I really think it's because the 4 party members that I have chosen from the community haven't been to Daggerford yet, and that's what it's been waiting for. So Daggerford was a small but consequential town located in Delambier Vale within the Greater Sword Coast. It was primarily a farming community and considered by some to be a mere stopover. The town had great ambitions to grow and be seen as an alternative to the northern neighbor of Waterdeep. Despite its modest size and somewhat inflated sense of importance, Daggerford was resilient. It was something of a relic from the old kingdom of Delambier, too stubborn to fall even when a series of wars, crusades, and other conflicts threatened the entirety of the Sword Coast. Daggerford's coat of arms was a silver dagger covered in blood atop a dark blue cloak. So it has history here, and the further you dig through the fandom of Daggerford, you will find some deep roots. And a lot of these deep roots, I think, are why I chose Daggerford. I don't want there to be nothing there. I don't want to have to do all the world creating, because that's just homebrew. If I'm going to do everything, make my own world, right? I like piggybacking on this world that's already been created, and I like that because it kind of it's like stealing some of the inspiration or some of the thematic from other campaigns. Like if you're a character that's played many players in D&D and in Sword Coast, you've seen Baldur's Gate in 3 or 4 different dungeon masters descriptions, and you have an idea of the world. Well, if you're dropped back into that world, those ideas come back, and they kind of fill in the surrounding areas of your brain, and it's all about this thematic of immersion, I think. So I really love this idea. Let's continue. It's a walled settlement with a population that by large lived in the outlying hamlets, farms, and such estates rather than within the town proper. As such, the streets of Daggerford were not densely populated. The town was significantly refurbished in the 13th century, yada yada, wood to stone. Important, the clan Ironeater, a dwarven clan, which we will write that down as they are going to be of importance for us. Clan Ironeater. Even after this improvement, Daggerford's roads remained unpaved. Several of its buildings were ramshackle in appearance, even a century later. Surrounding the town, it has a modest moat. 3 crossing points. One of it has a larger gate on the western side, or eastern side, I should say. Gate on the north and the south. Thankfully, this thankfully the tradition of using the moat for a dumping place for the town's refuse ceased in the late 15th century, probably with the use of magic, I hope. Sitting atop the hill at the center of Daggerford is the Grand Ducal Castle, which was technically older than the town itself. And this piece is really important. The castle was created first, and we're going to dig back into the lore, and we're going to explain why that is. And I really love that because it puts Ducal Castle in this realm of its own world where it can exist separately from Daggerford but together with Daggerford, and I'm going to use that as like a storytelling piece. That difference, what is the difference between the castle and Daggerford in and of itself? And it's really exciting. Let's see, geography, do we want to read some of this? So I guess throughout its storied history, Daggerford's dukes claimed the lands from as far away as the Flotian estates to the north and the Dragonspear Castle to the south, which isn't too much land. In truth, the duchy comprised of the town proper and surrounding farmsteads, which numbered around a score. The town of Daggerford was strategically placed along the tradeway within the idyllic countryside that encompassed the northern bank of the Delambier River. It was the largest settlement located between the metropolises of Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate. There were a number of small but notable landmarks situated around Daggerford. Let's see, the familial estate of the Flotians, which we're going to put Flotian question mark. Because the story's about Daggerford. I don't think the story is about the Flotians. So we're going to put a question mark there. I don't know if we're going to incorporate that. Maybe if I need to do some side quests, maybe if the party wants to leave Daggerford, that could be something that could be talked about and prepped up. But I don't think they are necessary for the story we're trying to tell now. Excuse me. Okay. Near the Elortians' home was a temple known as the Mosque of Tyr, which the younger elf maintained. Mosque of Tyr. Let's see. On a small hill near the town was an entrance to a nearby song path, a network of portals that were connected to works of oratorical art such as songs and epic poems. The song path near Daggerford was referred to as the Voices of the Lost, named for the song that was required for its opening. Other notable points: Gillian's Hill, Liam's Hold, and Blackhelm Tower, each within a day's travel of Daggerford. So what I see when I read stuff like this is things for my party to be doing. Activities, day trips, side quests, maybe even pillars of information for my party that need to be obtained that will fill in story inside Daggerford itself, you know? All these places around it might hold some answers, but they're all accessory. None of them are needed. The story is going to be the story of Daggerford, so I'll only maybe utilize one or two of these things, I think, in practice, just to create some worldliness and pull them away from the city once or twice throughout the campaign. But I want the majority of the story to be told there at the city, you know? Daggerford, that's what's the goings on. So let's see here. So I think before we go diving into the geography or the surrounding parts, we're going to try and find our main storyline. What is the story of Daggerford? Where is it? What is it doing? And why is all this stuff happening? So let's see about the government. Since its founding as part of the Kingdom of Falorm, around the year of Trials Arcane 523, Tyndall Daggerford. The town was governed by dukes through Tyndall's family line until at least the end of the Second Sundering. Around the year of the Manticore, 1280, a town charter was granted by the Duke Conan, leading to the creation of the anonymous ruling body known as the Council of Guilds, modeled after the masked lords of Waterdeep. The town was too small to maintain such secrecy, however, and it was well known that the local guild masters served on the seats of the council. Interesting. We have some conflict here. Do we want to read into any of this? I don't necessarily think so. Is in 1280, around the year 1280 is when the Council of Guilds was created. We'll see if that's set, because we need to go further in time. The first Duke of Daggerford was Rugier the Just. 1270, The still young Edwin Daggerford was the Duke of Daggerford until his death, defending the city from the Batezu Gorgamas. What's a Batezu? Let's find out. Batezu, are we saying that correctly? Batezu. Dominant race of devils in the Nine Hells. Once evil, mortals whose souls do the diabolical deed or infernal contract were condemned to Beator, stripped of their individuality. So this is a war sparked with Beator in the Ninth Hell. Roots to Chains of Asmodeus. Very nice. We have some sulfur in the air. Don't we love it? His young son Conan Daggerford inherited the title, but I believe in 1280 is when they introduced the Guild Council, correct? In the mid-14th century, the town was ruled by Duke Puritan Daggerford. Unfortunately, the Duke lost his life in the First Dragon Spear War. Was succeeded by another Daggerford. I hear a cat like meowing. But is it like my cat? So confused, tripping out, literally. Let's see. Where are we? So I want to find out what happens to the Dukes, and the Dukes are done. Okay, after Duke Plial's presumed death, the city's leadership was taken over by a wealthy merchant member. It was Lewis. You probably caught a mouse. City council, who was a wealthy member of the city council. Come on. That brief change of power was part of the Zentarum plot to take over Daggerford. Lewis, what the hell? Come on. It's cold. Are you serious right now? Why did my cats do this to me? I swear. I swear, these cats. Okay. So we just got a juicy bit. We just got a juicy morsel. That brief change of power was due in part to a Zentarum plot to take over Daggerford. Magtar's reign ended when he was incinerated by the invading Gorgamas. Is that the same? Okay. After the Zentarum plot was thwarted and the city defended itself, Duke Plial, revealed to still be alive and held hostage by the enemies of the city, returned to the throne. Duke Madeline Daggerford received his title before the year of 1485, as the tradition of primogeniture decreed that the title be passed to the eldest male child. It was the opinion of many in the town, however, that his sister, Lady Morwen, would be suited to that role. After the practice of primogeniture was suspended the following year, Lady Morwen assumed the title of Duchess. That would be 1485. So I feel like a lot of our history is going to lead us past 1485, correct? And I'm just kind of scrolling by some stuff here to kind of see where these numbers lead us to. So there's some 15th century jargon. So let's pick up here. Because I'm still trying to figure out where the city's at. At some point prior to the Second Sundering, the Duchy of Daggerford entered into the Lord's Alliance. Let's read into the Lord's Alliance, because we know what it is, but we're just going to read into it a bit more specifically while we're here. The Lord's Alliance, also known as the Council of Lords, was a partnership of merchant cities founded in the early 14th century. Its members were from the Sword Coast, the North and the Western Heartlands, Waterdeep, Silvery Moon, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter, as well as other free cities, towns, and regions. It was formed to oppose the growing influence of the Black Network in the north, the Shadow Thieves of Amman, rampaging hordes of orcs, and Northlander raiders. For a century and a half and more, the Lord's Alliance has stood as the most important and influential group in the north. Its power has kept towns safe from the predations of larger powers, has kept the ambitions of Luskan in check, and has taught the rulers of many cities that it is better to cooperate even for a time than to merely shut one's doors and allow storms to rage outside. So, 14th century alliance. Alliance members and leaders, here we are. Okay, so this is important right here. We like this. We're going to go to our Daggerford page here. We're going to create a page for Lord's Alliance, because this is going to be important information that I'm going to want notated somewhere. And if we're lucky, all these quick tips should stay. Yeah, and will bring me to Forgotten Realms, so I can say, Morwen Daggerford, let's go talk about her. Yeah, beautiful. We love technology. Like, imagine being a DM without this stuff, right? Like, look how easy it is to be a good DM. You just have to try a little bit harder and stop making everything up yourself. Excuse me, sorry, not trying to offend anybody. But like, yo, it's so easy to use all this information. And I just feel like the story just resonates so much more when it's the same story we keep telling. So let's keep telling it, right? So we know what the Lord's Alliance is. We knew what it is. I just want to get more specific on it. Around the year of the Iron Dwarf's vengeance in 1485, okay, Maldwin became involved with a woman named Natissa. She was, in fact, a succubus called Pencheska, working for Tarul Var of Thay. Let's find out what Thay is. Thay was a mysterious and terribly powerful magocratic nation in East Faerun. Oh, I know where the Thay is. That was long governed by the Zulkirs and the Red Wizards. Necromancer Lich Zastam. And then the 15th century, so it would be them. As long as I exist, slavery will always be a way of life here in Thay, and I can promise you I will be here for a very long time. Zastam, a 15th century lich. Yeesh. Evil. Oh, look at how evil this dude is. The 8 Zulkirs who ruled the country of Thay, and after the war, he ruled as a regent of Thay. Legion of Bone, Undead Soldiers. Let's see. Zastam's dreams are finally coming true. He has walked the paths of the doomed and gone unscathed past the devouring portal. His destiny lies beneath the Thay Mount, and when he looks to the future, he sees all of Faerun turned into a great charnel house, full of undead creatures which do his bidding. The other Zulkirs have only one choice: follow him willingly or unwillingly. Those who do so willingly are to be rewarded. Those who do not lose both life and soul and become Zastam's slaves. He means to do this, believe me. Seek the paths of the doomed, and you will see what I speak. Lahel Elminster Scribe. An evil necrolich that wants to rule the world. Is involved with Natissa, is involved with Duke, the Duke of our city here. The Duke himself became possessed by the spirit of Bazaka, the Pit Fiend, who orchestrated the Second Dragon Spear War second century before. the succubus, and the spirit of the pit fiend attempted to murder Duke Maldwin and incriminate a group of adventurers. While it was unknown how the conflict between the groups actually played out, Francesca was able to imprison the Duke's sister in Crom's hold, assume her likeness, and succeed her brother as Daggerford's new Duchess. By the time the Ordoning was broken, when the region was being assaulted by giants, she had brokered an agreement with the Zentarum to ensure the safety of her people. So let's read into this a bit. Yeah, so essentially, the Duke became involved with a succubus who worked for Zaztam in the Red Wizards, and they sought to beseech the crown and put a false idol upon it and if we read up further, and I love this muddied storyline. So we're going to go up further back. Remember when we were talking about the Dukes and the history of the Dukes? And before Lady Morwen was... Here we are. Duke Maldwin Daggerford received his title in 1485 as the tradition of primogeniture decreed that the title be passed to the eldest male. It was the opinion of many in the town, however, that his sister, Lady Morwen, the succubus, would be more suited to the role. So what do we have here going on? In the following year, Lady Morwen assumed the title of Duchess. And let's scroll down. I love how they do this on the text too. As of the year of the Warrior Princess, 1489, Lady Morwen was still serving as Town Duchess. So what happened? In reality, let's see. A succubus and a lich literally played on the virtues of the townsfolk of Daggerford and made them think they were doing a service to themselves and the world by throwing away a male duke and throwing away the male lineage. And whether you want to be supporting it or not, they use this as a catalyst to implant their own false idol and have their own ruler on the throne of Daggerford, a city they have no business controlling or having any player power in. How cool is that? So what do we have left? Is a city that has a secret succubus ruler. And what would that look like, right? So I feel like this is like the key pillar of the going-ons and the happenings. And I love this when you're telling a story. I love this kind of idea of a story at face value and then a story behind the scenes, right? So you could probably have players come and do this campaign, and I very much would like them to be able to walk through it blindly and be like, oh, look at this Daggerford, look at this city that's existed next to all these other cities, what have you, blah, blah, blah. But if they really want to try and they really want to role play and they really want to dig and search and find things, right? Connect the clues. Perhaps they can find out about this succubus lord. So we're going to read a little bit further, and I think, honestly, that is where it ends. That's right where it ends. I've seen this before, 15th century, that's right where we are. I do want to check one other thing. So the campaign I was running prior to this is I want to set them in similar... Lewis, will you stop licking your... He's got a little woundy wound. We gotta get him checked out by the vet. He keeps licking it. Okay, so 1635. How many years is that? It's too many years. $14.89. I'm just looking at other things. Kelson Darktreader, Master of the Hunt, who served Daggerford well over a century, just standout people. Maybe we will keep it separate from that, because I guess there's no necessary need to tie those in. I was thinking about, I had the idea of maybe tying in some of the story and transcending it between two of my campaigns, but what's the point? What's the story I'm telling? This is the story I'm telling, so we have it. This is it. So, let's see here. What are we going to create with a story like this, though? Right? What does it all mean? So, we have a succubus who's not of the bloodline of Zaztam. Okay, that was good. Succubus of Zaztam. It never says what they're doing, right? So what are they What are they doing? I think is the first question I ask when you say, "Hey, a ruler of Thay and a ruler of the Red Wizards Council has taken all this time and energy to supplant a false idol of a succubus on the throne, right? Why?" Let's read this last bit. Lady Morwen was still serving as the town's duchess. It was unknown if the individual was the real duchess or still a succubus, Francesca, posing as her. Around this time, the duchess sent a recently formed adventurers group to search for Christos Tellum, the noble heir to Tellum's hold. The nobleman and his party went missing in the Desarin Valley after some recent forest fires. The young nobleman was soon delivered to the Duchess, along with the mysterious magical flask he had set out to recover. After the flask was brought into the town, Daggerford was briefly plagued by a vampire, Darlavian, who unleashed the undead on the population. Darlavian was slain by the same adventuring group sent to recover Tellum. Okay, so we have a started and completed story. The Duchess used the adventurers to recover the Amber Gold Blade under the pretense that its magic was needed to restore Christos Tellum's health. The blade wound up in the hands of the Rakasha Nadir, who utilized a slutty portal to once again throw Daggerford into chaos. In the ensuing mayhem, the Amber Gold Blade was used to uncork the mysterious magical flask, releasing an ancient red dragon called Carnaciral. The dragon caused significant damage to Daggerford, but departed shortly thereafter, along with Nadir and the young Christos. Maybe that's where our story begins. Rumors and legend, the Ballad of Paradis the Great, written about the local caravan named Paradis, was quite popular. Maybe we'll just write a song for that too. You can look into that. I love the concept of writing songs and putting them into lore. Okay, so I feel like a lot of times when I find pieces like this of the story in Wizards of the Coast, material. It's sorry, just making sure my baby's good. He's sleeping so cute over there. I feel like there's a lot of campaigns and directions that have been taken by Wizards of the Coast and other writers, and a lot of that is either it's finished, like they made the campaign, they got to do what they wanted it to do, but then there's nothing more, and it's kind of just leaves a void of the world, if you will. And I guess it's not really a void, because like this is the creative space that we love, but like this is like my whole premise behind saying like Baldur's Gate has been fleshed out, Waterdeep has been fleshed out. Like there's several campaigns and several modules that have been run in those cities, and people have used those cities. It's been done. There are stories. There's multiple things going on. With Daggerford, we have like this one story, right? And there's this one story plus another little tiny story that kind of exists. And because this is going to be a long-term campaign, I feel like I want to have that other little tiny story, right? And what is that other tiny story? And we've talked about it a little bit already. And that is the Ducal Castle. And what is the goings on of the Ducal Castle, right? Because all these stories are the stories of Daggerford that we've been reading and talking about. But the Ducal Castle, remember, is older than Daggerford itself. So it has more story, and we'll get into that. I feel like that, again, is another separate thing, so we're going to get into that way later. And we're just going to focus on the fallout, I think, of the 15th century, right? So, after this fall, let's think about what had happened here. A flask of red dragon. Everybody left and departed. And was it just a conflict of power? Like, why were they fighting? The blade. Let's just read about Carnisol and his intentions. Because the dragon caused significant damage to Daggerford and then left. Oh, look at that scary Mo. Look at that scary mug right there. Carnisol was the ancient red dragon that wreaked havoc across Daggerford, the surrounding Sword Coast, and even islands of the Sea of Swords during the late 15th century. So maybe just that's where his rampage began. After being released unto the realms, Carnisol enjoyed a partnership with the malevolent Rakasha named Nadir. Alright, so now I need to know what a Rakasha is. Oh. A race of duplicitous outsiders that mostly dwelt in the material plane. They were revealed as devious sorcerers, political puppeteers, and thought to be an embodiment of evil. Okay. Interesting. It's like a kind of like an evil far traveler. Prior to the Slotty invasion of Daggerford that broke out sometime, so it was trapped in an iron flask. So we'll read that. I want to read it Slad. Frog-like natives of Limbo, a well-known representative of ever-changing chaos. Okay. So they're a weapon, a creature to be unleashed upon something you wish to destroy. Around the year of the Nether, Mountain Scrolls was trapped in our flask. While the exact circumstances of the event were unclear, it is known that Nadir used the Ambergrill blade to unstop the cork from the flask and let loose the dragon upon the realms. The dragon erupted from Daggerford Castle in a raging inferno. Is Buddy getting up? He's got his taggy. What's he getting up for? It's like 8:30. Yeah, child's getting up. I'm gonna go check on him a little bit. We'll pause here for a moment. Let's see. Okay, so I'm back. So let me check out. It's at least an hour ago, you know it? So yeah, I'm good. Okay, so where are we? We were talking about the Slutty invasion. We're talking about the dragon, Carniceral. Okay, he erupted from Daggerford, and a raging inferno ravaged the town, snatched in his claws the nobleman Christos Telos, who had previously uncovered the flask, and flew him away from the city. He left a swath of destruction north along the tradeway towards the high moor, and as far to the southwest as Corwell, on the Isle of Gwyneth and the Moonchase, while in there, Carcel was turned away by the Kirene named Daiwan. A group of adventurers tracked Carnicels along his path of destruction and eventually made their way up to the Sword Mountains on the Sword Coast, north. After delving into the crypt of Ukrypt, the adventurers became imminently aware that both Carnicel and Nadir were about to attack them. Yeah, so I think I very much feel like there's... Looks like Dragonfire, the board game, kind of plays a lot on this cooperative deck building game set within the Forgotten Realms. It's a cooperative adventure game. The events of the game took place after Duchess Morwen's Daggerford reign started. Dungeon crawl and the Portcullis breached. I mean, you should look into this, eh? After unnamed town. spread far enough to reach Duchess Daggerford's attention. An ancient evil arises. The Duchess requested adventurers' help in search of Cristellum. We know this. So this is that story. In the shadows over Dragonspear Castle, the heroes follow the trail of destruction. Interesting, kind of skimming. Yes, there's a lot to this game, actually. I wonder if I can find some more on this. This is like a lot of this story is important for me, I think. Welcome to Corruption in Kalishman. I hope you've been enjoying the Moonshay. Oh, so this is a game that keeps coming out. Time for a jaunt in the mysterious deserts of the Deep South. Welcome to the Corruption. Some expansion. Moonshay. Here's the Dragonfire. Oh, here we go. Story roadmap. Oh, cool. Quick Start Dragonfire is all right here. Okay, so it's like it's literally it's D&D without the story. Enter environment cards. So let's see. Rulebook, errata and FQ. Environments, let's look at not the rulebook. The quick start. The adventure. The village is attacked. Heroes born in the dead of the night. A deep bark wakes you as flames race up the thatching of your cottage. This night will test your mettle. Will you be swept away and forgotten? A nameless tragedy of evil raids? Or will you rise up and defeat the monsters? Will the morning find only ash, or a hero forged from the flames? The village is attacked. A hero is born. It is a quick start adventure for Dragonfire that will have you casting spells and flashing blades in no time. Shuffling discard power around, order once the step is complete, determine who will be the first player. Okay. So there's encounters, damage examples, all the fighting. The encounter deck must be empty. So the story that I'm looking for is in those encounter cards, I believe. Oh, look at this very nice map. Okay. Interesting. Quick start. Let's take another 5 seconds. Market cards. Encounter card. Death Lab. Hey. Yeah, I'm streaming. Oh, have a angry meatball chatter. What's up? Whenever is. Whenever. Yeah, if he's asleep, it's fine. Is he sleeping? Okay, yeah, go have a drink. I'm fine, I'm chilling here. I'm just doing some world building. I just figured, like, why think about it and talk about it when I get to stream it. So. Love you, hon.
What's going on here?
What's up, what's up? Who has joined my chat? Hi. Ah, it's the Juan. Let's see. So, what we were talking about, Juan, is... So this is what I found. I'm on this, like, D&D rabbit chase right now. The build. So essentially, what we're doing here is we're not making a build. We're not doing a character. We're creating a campaign. And I'm just kind of going through the thought processes of this campaign, writing down like the notes and stuff. So as I was telling you, Juan and Angry, essentially where I'm at, I'm in this like mad rabbit chase of information. So I started way back here on fandom in Daggerford, and kind of went through the history of Daggerford. But as you go through fandom, and I love this about fandom, they have all these auto links, and you can kind of just keep clicking and just like go deeper and deeper into the story. And so what I found is a lot of the story of Daggerford is trapped within this Dungeons and Dragons Wizards of the Coast board game card game called Dragonfire, which I was just in the process of downloading and like reading the rules and like some of the cards of the game just to kind of get some vibe on what's going on with Daggerford, like as a whole. Trying to just find some of the lost story that exists here. Um, yeah. So literally just like reading through, like glossing through this game, which actually it looks like it's like D&D without the story, Dragonfire. It's like they do all the character creation for you. Like everything's kind of simple and fast paced. And like the story is turned way off. But I guess what I would be creating in this sense is like the full roleplay version of Dragonfire.
Did we get any of the garlic sauce?
Yeah, it should be in there somewhere.
I don't see it. Did you see it?
No. Um,
Angry Meatball doesn't know how you got here.
my, my, I'm sorry. My wife just comes in. She's like, "Do you have the garlic sauce?" Like, yeah. Like, I'm just like keeping the garlic sauce like in my fucking computer desk drawer, like hanging out for like
Is
what?
that is that normal behavior?
Yes, that's
Let me hide my garlic sauce a little
like
better.
I guess so. Um, she's got it. Everything's a-okay. Um, what's the project? The project is just is me figuring out what I want the campaign story to be. So essentially, right now I'm just like wading through a lot of stories. We've covered Clan Iron Eater, the Flotians. We have a Mosque of Tyr, which are all like key names of individual types of places that kind of exist around and like key characters that exist in Daggerford. Um, and I was just kind of just reading through the story and like waiting for like my time to slide in. And I think honestly, like at the end of all this history is a really good spot because what I have found is uh, essentially Daggerford in the 15th century had a dragon by the name of, let's see, where's his name? Really cool name. Carnasil, um, was released from Daggerford Castle, rampaged the Sword Coast, and actually has like there's a lot of story about it. Like there's probably like a campaign or adventure where a few adventurers followed this trail of dragon's fire up into the mountains up north and slayed the dragon and had like a very epic and grand quintessential tale of D&D, right? Um, but what I want to tell is the story of Daggerford and like what happens, I guess, now in the wake of this dragon's fire.
Hmm.
So let's see. I was playing around. Well, the thing about Daggerford is there really isn't that much importance, um, which is kind of why I picked it. Like, it's not a Boulder's Gate. It's not a Water's Deep. It doesn't have all this like extra stuff and like all this story and rich history. There's some spaces. There's some void. It's a little bit lesser known, so there's some opportunity there to tell some story. And I'm sorry again. My kiddo's just struggling sleeping tonight. Um, I gotta be. I'll be right back. I can't let him. literally, that's the question. Angry. That is the question. So what is the story we are trying to tell? And we're kind of just trying to figure that out. Um, let's see here. So I think I like this idea of like what's going to happen in the wake of, and I feel like this story, or the lens of what has been written, kind of follows that path with Dragonfire, follows the trail of Carnisil up north. But like all of everything that's written about Daggerford ceases to exist before like 1485, 15th century.
I love your commitment to following lore.
Yeah, no, like I love it. So like, I mean, just like talk about that, like I feel like it's like I'm cheating almost with thematic
When you
because
follow lore,
yeah. Because it's like
I feel
people
like that's almost more challenging. You've got to do the research, and then you've
it,
got to be like,
it
you know,
is, but it is
true to canon.
it is, but like when you have like fandom like this, like all you have to do is click, like look at my stream. I go to like I have the 10 Lords of the Alliance and auto links to each one of them. You know, so your character says, "Well, who leads the Lord Alliance in Waterdeep?" I go, "It's a Parallel Silverhand. She's also the leader of the Alliance." Like I have all the information there. It's like you kind of got to like do the legwork to parse it out, kind of. Um, and like in that sense, like I think it's cheating in the sense of like the thematic you create is so much grander because you get to piggyback on like what everybody else has written or done. And like people have played campaigns in Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate, and they've heard these names be toted around, right? So like if you pull from that headcanon, it builds your own almost. Um, so I feel like yeah, like it is difficult. You're right, like in a sense, like there is some difficulties, but like when you have fandom and like all these like tools and materials at your disposal, all free stuff on the computer, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of just like at our fingertips almost.
It is pretty nice.
And what I like to do while I'm just on this point, like there's a lot of Wizards of the Coast material that like kind of like falls off a cliff and like is written up until it served their purpose and then ceases to exist. Like
And just drops off
yeah,
entirely.
and what does that leave? Just like a void of story. Like what is happening there? You know, like there is all this story from 13th century to 14th century to 15th century, and then nothing. Like they tell all these stories about the city, all this background and rich history with the lords and the dukes of the castle, and even like the castle separate from Daggerford itself. And then Carnisil happens, this huge chaotic conflict where a succubus and the rulers of Thay from the other side of the globe manipulate the town and beseech upon it hellfire and dragon's fire, right? And then like there's so what I see right now is I'm very much seeing like this scene of characters as children, like the um like you feel like you wake up the Skyrim thing where you wake up and it's a dragon and you're in the wagon like that, but like that's like you as children. So like you have these flashbacks and I narrate these memories of the town being destroyed by dragon's flame and these giant big red wings. um, and then the characters are going to fast forward maybe 5-10 years and they're going to be young adults and they're going to be like maybe joining the city guard or joining an organization that volunteers time to help thatch roofs that were burnt from dragonfire, you know, like whatever it is. um, and like it's like that's like their history, like these are the children born from the flames of Carnisil and that whole chaotic fallout, I feel. Um,
Hmm.
no, I disagree. I disagree, Angry, because I feel like this is the better version of homebrew. I feel like people don't want to do this legwork and they say it's too much, and so they just make everything up and they miss all these pieces and they have all these holes in their own world and story. When in reality, you could just do the opposite and just kind of find the pieces of the story that work for you, omit the ones that don't, and then just fill in those blanks. You know, like I feel like this creates a more complete story, in my opinion. Um, Maybe it doesn't. Maybe other people find it way easier doing it other ways. But I feel like this is just like the canon that speaks to me. Um, and it's very real. It's like picking up the story of the Wizards of the Coast and like carrying the torch, if you will, like keeping it going. Because the story in Daggerford wouldn't stop at 15th century. It would go on. You know, the story would be complete. They'd be living lives next to other campaigns being told, other stories being told in the north and in the south and around them. Um,
I think the handful of times that I've tried sort of building off of um, some existing content,
mhm,
um, I personally find the process of like ingesting existing content while simultaneously trying to like generate new content, and sometimes like meld the two together in a way that tells the story that I want to tell, or at least lays the ground for the co-creation of a story that I want to co-create with
mhm,
players,
mhm.
is like that feels difficult, or it has felt difficult for me. Um, Even though like I always feel like it should be easy, kind of like starting from something rather than nothing.
I feel like that's what my concern is. I feel like I have this weird insecurity in creation where I don't like a blank page, and I feel like I fill that page badly. But I feel
Mm,
like if I'm like coloring in between the lines, I do a really good job at it. You
mm.
know, if I'm like filling in the ad libs, I do a really good job at it. But like making the prompt for the ad lib, I don't know. Maybe it's just my own insecurities. Who knows? um, but let's see. Let's see where we are at here. Um, and so very much. I mean, I feel like you know the concern when you create, and like I really loved one of the campaigns I applied for earlier today. One of the things that the DM said was like a very cool statement, but was like, "Hey, I want to do a homebrew campaign, but I want to get my party together and figure out what story we want to tell before I pitch you all an idea on a homebrew campaign." And I was like, wait a second, what? This is a homebrewer that wants to tell a story with me and doesn't want to just tell me their story. And I feel like that's what happens a lot when people create these their own worlds or their own campaigns. Um, they're hyper focused on their own story, kind of like a bit of a main character syndrome, if you will.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and and really, like the best way to do it is to tell a collaborative story, to have the input of your party members and your DM, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so that everybody's needs are being met, but also like all cylinders are popping. You know, everybody's like got the same involvement and the same passion and the story, um, like the same horse in the race almost.
Yeah, I also wish that people realize that in some ways, if you finesse a bit and do it right, you can probably have your cake and eat it too. Um, with
Yes, you
world
very
building,
much
like if
can.
there's a story that you want to tell, you have to first and foremost remind yourself that you're not writing a book, you're playing a game with players.
Mm,
And that said, like you can have things set to happen in a story. Just make sure that you don't have like this pre-written like beginning, middle, end. Um, and I think
right?
people need to worry less about like the timeline, like fleshing out a timeline, and worry more about like fleshing out like characters and fleshing out places. And then having like those key events that you want to happen, like, you know, you can make those set in stone, you can have like triggers for those or whatever. But yeah, like I feel like there are opportunities to like
No, you're totally right, and I think that's like
have your
the varying skills of storytellers and dungeon masters, right?
Yeah.
And finding the balance in that. And it's such a weird art because it's so like fluid and like different and has so many variables and has so many inputs. And like you add improv in there and things really start changing. So to be able to wield all of that force and power and magic is definitely a skill that is only solved through experience, I think, in this situation. So I implore everybody, just do it. For years I told myself that I couldn't do it, that I didn't even want to do it, or I wouldn't even like doing it. I convinced myself. And then I did the opposite one day, and I was like, stop being a child and grow up and face your fears. And you know, I was like, I'm just gonna do it now. And I was like, oh my god, I love DMing, it's so much fun.
LOL.
You know, like,
Meanwhile, I've been avoiding it still.
but it's okay because we all have our own paths, you know, like I'm just starting to really, you know, get passionate about streaming, and that's something you've been doing for a little while now, you know. So it's like we all find our calling at a different time, and you know, it's best when it comes natural. And I think that's a good homage to storytelling as well, right? When things come naturally and the timing comes naturally, that story comes out so much more real and so much more believable. But if you force things before they're ready or before your characters are ready, they feel out of place and they feel, you know, not wanted maybe. And that's really, again, is like you're just kind of trying to avoid these red flags when you're story building. So let's see. So the story I want to tell is the aftermath, and kind of how this city is going to live up to its potential post Carnisil. And behind that, there needs to be some story, some rooted story behind that. And I have a couple options here.
I am gonna dash.
Sure, yeah.
Coming.
Nice.
But I hope you have a great time diving deep into this. Like,
I told you I was gonna do some lore, and I'm like really deep in it now.
Awesome.
We do lore over here on Lore Masters.
You stan. Alright, go crazy,
cool.
friend. Godspeed.
We'll see you on.
See ya.
Hi there, thanks for joining the channel. Let's see, I'm kind of just like muddling my thoughts here. I've felt through the Daggerford storyline, the history a bit. I'm kind of left wanting, not wanting, I'm left choosing what I want my kind of flavor of the story to be. You know, so there's going to be the aftermath of the city and what becomes of Daggerford, right, is the story we're going to tell. But you know, there's always some flavor in the background, right? Some vampire, succubus, lichdom type thing, right? The history, the roots. I think it would very much decide or shape the nefarious forces at will in Daggerford. And I feel like the more I talk about it, that's what's going to be the focal point, you know, is we have the city that we're focusing on itself, Daggerford, and where it goes. And in that, we'll have people that are either helping that or hindering that, right? So these nefarious ties, these evil ties, say to Zaztam in the Thay of the Red Wizards, or perhaps maybe just some undead remnants. Or maybe it's something with the vampire lords of Ducal Castle. Not sure yet. I need to do some more research on Ducal, so I'm going to do that in a little bit. We're just kind of just laying the groundworks here. So they have their method of the city, the guilds. Put the world first, focus on the places and the characters. Instead of the plot points, the stories become malleable and more easily weaved into players' desires and players' inputs. Yeah, exactly. But I think so. This is the difference, Angry, is when I have to create a story with lore that sits in fandom lore, you know, I need to know these things. So I don't want the excuse me, I don't want the impetus to be put upon, say, Zaztam or even Carnisol, the dragon, and the flames of the city. Like, literally, these players are going to be living in a city that's been thrashed by dragonfire. Half the town's going to be destroyed, which now in hindsight makes me happy because it's a lot less map I have to build down the road, right? But I still need them to be there. I want them to be real. I want it to exist. So when the players interact with the world, I'm, as the DM, am prepared to tell them about these pillars and these story points. And very much that. I don't want to tell a story at these players. So the goal here is to write a story that exists. The goal here is to write what's a good example? I'll show you. So this is a great example. So the guilds. So check out my content for the guilds here. This is like a quick type up just to organize my brain and thoughts, right? But what I'm doing here in Daggerford is it's going to be a city of trade on the trade route. These are all facts. It's in between Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate. It's on a coast. It's on a river. It's a very trade prevalent town. Trade's going to be a very important thing, right? Do the players want to get involved in that? I don't know. Do the players want to maybe make their own guild and kind of weigh for their own money and agenda? I don't know. Will those things be happening nonetheless? Yes. So what I've created is, in my mind, kind of like a game of Battleship between half of the guilds in the city. So one half of the guilds really like trade on water, and one half of the guilds really like trade on land. And when these guilds interact with each other, this is going to be the conflict. The Carpenters League and who makes wood for ships wants there to be more ships because that's more business for them. So whenever I roleplay a Carpenters League person, or if they interact with Carpenters League people, the quests that I give them or the interaction that they are given will be more along the lines of maybe pushing towards the coast and pushing towards trade on water. And also, in that same breath, if they do want to join in on this conversation, then they would weigh this balance of red versus blue, and that would tell part of the story, right? But I think what is important, and I think this is a mistake that I made early on in my career as a DM, trying to kind of dig into some political scene stuff for my campaign, is I was too dependent on the characters, my player characters, manipulating and wielding that story. And when they didn't want to, or they didn't have interest, or they wanted to do something else, my political scene froze. and I personally didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't know how to progress it, and that wouldn't that's not doesn't feel real, you know. If the player wants to say, oh, fuck you and your politics, like I'm an adventurer and I got more important stuff to do, that's great. That's what we want. That's the story the player wants to tell. But in the background, in the real world of this world we've created, the politics would still happen. There would still be scenes of, you know, politicians debating and things being changed and laws being passed. Like, that stuff still exists, and I think parsing it out in the manner that I'm doing it is kind of setting me up for success, because again, like, I'm not necessarily creating a story. I'm creating, I guess, a bunch of different mechanics to help the players tell the story they want to tell. So yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers or kind of explains where I'm coming from a bit better. But yeah, you're totally right, Angry. Like, I don't like the idea of telling a story because the players want to play what they want to do, and also, like, you want them to have agency. You want them to feel like they can touch the world and a ripple will be caused from that touch. But in the same breath, if they don't touch the river flows. So, you know, will they get more caught up in maybe the alliance of the land? Maybe they would want to leave Daggerford. I'm gonna try and find some players that don't, and I'm gonna try and give them enough things to do there that they don't. But maybe they will. And I think that's where, if you go to the very beginning of the stream, I have like a good handful of things with question marks on them, like the Flotian Estate and the Mosque of Tyr, the Black Helm Tower. These are all real pieces off of the Sword Coast map that actually exist, that are like within a day's worth of travel from Daggerford. So if the players do want to take a vacation or do a side quest, or maybe I want to feed them a plot point in a different manner, they could take a trip. You know, maybe they're just getting tired of the city. We'll take a trip, take a day trip. You know, we'll leave the city and we'll come back to the city. So yeah, it's weird, because it's like I'm not sitting here writing a story. I'm actually sitting here writing a bunch of bullets and creating a bunch of mechanics to then make a story. Because, I mean, as you know, Angry, it's like we're not reading a book. We're not reading a story, right? So it's like, it's weird. It's different. I have a very unorthodox approach, I'd say, to creating a campaign. But in that, I feel like there needs to be a somewhat of a story. I think I need to pick a small story that should be told maybe on the side if they so choose to investigate it. So I'm thinking, like I was saying, something with Ducal Castle, something with the rich history. And when I say a story, I mean like the vampire who's been living here for 2,000 years has been slowly trying to convince several townsfolk of it's just out of style. Yeah. But like, this vampire maybe like over several decades has been trying to like push this agenda to maybe reseat themselves in power. And if the players find a clue or a pillar on the vampire in the Ducal Castle, and they're like, whoa, what is this? Let's research it, and we found something, like, everybody, we need to look at this because this is huge. Well, guess what we have there? We have a story about a vampire that these players really want to find out about. But if they don't, and they're just like, whatever, well, then I'll just put this little sub story on the side, you know, and it can exist, and they can play in touch with it, and it won't be a thing. And I think the difference that I'm making between what I'm talking about here with this small story, this side story of flavor, in comparison to, say, maybe the economic scale of Daggerford, is the economic scale or the political scale of the city will continue to progress no matter what, whether the players want to interact with it or not. But perhaps this side story wouldn't progress at all if the players don't interact with it, and it would just be a small thing on the side. And maybe they find, and I just kind of have another idea while I'm on this. Like, I feel like it's very frequent with D&D players for them to like catch a red herring and really fall in love with it and really be like, if we can figure out what's behind this one door, all of our answers will be solved. And like, I feel like sometimes as the DM, you should just kind of like cave and give in to that and be like, you know what? You're right. That door was super important, and that door leads to all the secrets to the next quest and the next story we're gonna tell. And so having a little back pocket story or two, I think, is smart, but definitely not the forefront of what I'm going for here. Need to take a break for some of my medication as I'm post-op from surgery, and need to make sure I'm staying healthy. Poor Lewis, my poor cat. Angry Meatball, I love the name, by the way. So, enough about me. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. What's up with you, Angry? Do you play D&D 5e? Do you play Pathfinder? You said you weren't too familiar with D&D lore. What do you do? What's y'all thing, Angry Meatball? Yeah, I definitely I love to hear about my followers' worlds and their plans. You hear me say it at the beginning of my stream an awful lot, but like when we're world building, it's just nice to have a friend. You know, somebody you can kind of share your ideas with and bounce them off of. Nice, 3.5. You know, so that's where a lot of my roots start. Was a lot of advanced modules and a good handful of 3.5 modules. And honestly, I only ever knew module D&D. I never knew anything else until now. And then over the past like 3-4 years, I've retrained my brain into this homebrew, expansive sandbox type mentality, and I've like fallen in love with it. But like my roots, as you see, like they come from module, so it's like I want these big pillar lore points, and I want, you know, like a real world, you know. That is a great way to put it. It is an excuse to share a world we're building, or share a story we're telling, or share an adventure, right? I'm excited to try out Pathfinder. That's the next game that I think I'm gonna try out. I think we're gonna start with first edition. I think 5e is a really good base system that's simple enough to be inviting for people to get creative with it and for people to want to learn it. Cause I've read into Pathfinder just a little bit and I'm like, wow, this is way more complex than D&D 5e. But yeah, like as a DM, it's way easier to build a D&D 5e party than it is to build anything else, I think. You couldn't find the books? If I hadn't been... Oh, you're so in, it's so deep in the third. Well, I think that honestly is like the catch-all of D&D is like it's just a system that so many people know and we've played it so long that like the headcanon's so rich, you know, and that's kind of like what I was saying before with like the cheating with the thematic, right? Like I've played personally countless, like 30 plus D&D modules and like 10 plus homebrew worlds, all in D&D lore, right? So when I build another character in that lore, it takes pieces from all those stories and adds to what I'm thinking during the game. And I feel like that's the difference when you step into somebody's homebrew world and you're like, okay, well, what is everything? You're like, well, okay, that's a city on a mountain, but like, who lives there? And like, what is their people's history? You know, you have to learn every little bit of somebody's world brew to kind of fill that thematic in. But when I take pieces of Daggerford and I take roots of Waterdeep and I take themes of Baldur's Gate, it's just like bing, 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 like all these little like green flags in your head that you're familiar with just come out naturally. So like I think I've fallen in love with this like half homebrew style. And it's not to say that I'm like replacing the stories that exist, because I'm not. I'm finding the holes in the story that they haven't finished yet and kind of just making them my own. So I guess like while I'm just chatting on it, like my last campaign that I built was in Karatur, in the Auroran Desert, which is a very large purple sand desert in the western regions of Faerun. And all of the history that you read in it is so far back that none of it matters. And it kind of creates like this concept of you walking through a ruined world that once was and is completely different. So it was like, hey, like, if I just build something on top of this desert, I can tell all these stories and all these echoes of stories past, and they add to my thematic, but they don't interrupt the story that I'm telling now. And I chose Aberrance for that campaign, so I was got to get a little wonky with it, I think. But people actually playing. I'm sorry. Assuming you're already familiar with the D&D canon. Instead of the internet. So another thing that I like with this real like history that you can just look is a lot of times, like in the campaign that I had before, I would tell somebody about something and then I would just give them the link and let them read it. Like, now that your character understands it, like, you get to see and read everything I as the DM get to read, and you get to really understand it now. So it really helps me in that conversation. But I think with this campaign specifically, I do plan on having it be a pay-to-play campaign. So I assume I'll have veteran players, and I assume I'll have people who have experience with D&D. This isn't going to be a campaign for beginners or a new players campaign. I tend to try to put a lot of my new players in one-shots. I feel like they perform better there, because there's a lot of things people need to learn as role players and storytellers before I can really use them in a campaign, in my opinion. And I feel like it's a great place for everybody to start kind of experimenting with their characters and experimenting with the system. Cool. What are you working on right now? What's your side project? Right. I do have a drink. Cool. Yeah, I've helped a couple of my followers with their campaigns. Sometimes I just have a wild idea that works. And also conversely, like if you're listening in and you feel like you have a cool idea for the campaign, please tell me. I'll at the very least consider it and see if it can be used. I'm a big proponent of yes and, because I feel like it builds the best stories. The and is the hard part, though. And I guess while you're typing, I'll just ramble. I feel like the secret to yes anding is yes adding. So yes, we can do what you want to do. Let's add something to the game that allows for that. So like, I want to be a god, and I want to be the most powerful wizard in existence. Well, alright, yes. And we're going to add a method for you to attain that once you reach level 20. Right? Like, we're not just going to... Or like, here's another great way. Like, I want to use heat metal to boil somebody's blood because there is iron in blood. Like, okay, yes, and you're going to wait until level 20 when we do this prestige, like, leveling into ascending into godhood. And you'll be a blood mage. I'm not just going to give it to you. I'm going to make you work for it. I'm going to carrot stick it. Always carrot stick it. Dangle that carrot, baby. but I'm not a big fan of either like saying no to players, or like outright just banning things from the game. And in my opinion, that's a personal red flag. I can't enjoy a game where around every corner the dungeon master is just gonna ban something and take it out of existence because it doesn't serve them, and or they haven't considered it. It's just like it just doesn't sit right with me. It really makes me cautious and nervous about how I want to tell a story with these people, and I don't think it ever really works out in anybody's favor. And I feel like it's like a band-aid for dungeon masters to kind of save their story or save their idea of this world, when that's not what it's about. It's about making these characters feel like they're the best versions of themselves and telling a story about how that happens. You know, I think you've agreed with me on that many a times. I feel like it's definitely it's losing itself, right? It's coming out of style, I feel, in some sense, right? Let's see. So I think we need some phases here. Phases of how I see these characters. And I think phases is a bad word to use. I think tiers. Tiers is a great way to conceptualize D&D, because the tiers of D&D that exist are 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are level 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20. And in those 4 gaps of 5 levels, you have like these power spikes, if you will. And the players have much different capabilities at their disposal. So you're going to have tier 1. Tier 2. Tier 3. And tier 4. Another thing I like to do with my campaigns is do 1 to 20s. I feel like people don't play level 1 enough, and people don't play to level 20 enough. So let's do both. Let's see. I think Town Guard, I've theorized this before. I think in tier 1, everybody's going to be a part of the Town Guard. And what that means is they have like a job, a part-time job, kind of like the National Guard. They meet on weekends. They have a very sparsed out schedule where they have some duties. And I theorize possibly in these encounters and in these kind of sessions in which we're patrolling the walls or the city or doing some type of guard work, we'll pick up on some things going on in the city, some trends, right? Maybe some of those late clues of the story that we want them to seek out, or some clues for them to maybe expand upon themselves, right? So they would maybe get to hear tell of certain guilds that are pushing for certain agendas. Maybe an individual name would get dropped here and there. Sir Lord Linen of Red on the Tanner's Council has been seen many times, conversing with the Merchants Guild, stuff like that. To which I would then let the players kind of explore those things in their own manner, in their own right. I don't know if I brought this up. So essentially, the shape of Daggerford is going to be like a sandbox inside a city. And I very much see these players kind of doing whatever they want in a smaller sandbox than I've created before. So I want to give them that liberty. But I also want to tie them down in some aspects. So I think the Town Guard is a good way to do that, where they have a very light tie down. They still have agency to do what they want. I can stick them in places and feed them lines that I need to feed them. But then the majority of the week, these players get to do whatever they want. And it's only like 2 days out of the month or a week out of the month that they have to come and do these guard duties. And eventually I hope that the players would then use these guard duties to their favor. They would expect that they're going to have a town patrol, and maybe they'll try and sneak off of their patrol to go find some more information, or maybe they will use that as an alibi to go do something secret and evil and nefarious. Yeah. Tier 1 Town Guard. Tier 2. Guilds? There you are. Darksmerd. Really touched on the past, or that I don't like very much. GIF, whatever it puts out in the Magic the Gathering books. Okay, interesting. Player preference question. Okay, interesting. So it's kind of like a expanded version of what I'm doing, where you're taking a whole bunch of lore and ideas and kind of pushing them back to an ancient history, which allows you to kind of tell whatever story you want past that, but then utilize all that information however you see fit. Cool, yeah, I think the gifts and there's so many cool races. The not the hippo people, but the elephant people, I forget what they're called. I do have some pet peeves about the creation of the gift character. I don't understand how they're so proficient with guns when they have such big fingers. That's my one gripe with the GIF. Yeah, pretty much like Tasha's and beyond. Cool, nice. I guess so. One of the things you might have saw on my Google Doc page is just a blank word that says inspiration. So maybe you can kind of tag along on this conversation with me. I don't know how you feel about inspiration in D&D 5e, but the way I feel about it is they completely ignored it and made it non-existent and halfwayed it, and it's a thing but it's not a thing, and it exists but it doesn't do anything, but it can and it could, but they haven't written anything for that, and I think what happens is a lot of people just use inspiration as a free advantage, and if you haven't noticed, the 5e system, people it either doesn't exist or it's such a small thing that it shouldn't exist anyways. Because I have a campaign that we do it in, And we even have a rule: if you don't use your inspiration before the session ends, you lose it. Do you know how many times we just don't care about that rule? Because as I was going to say earlier, like, there's so many ways to get advantage in D&D. So like, you don't need it. You don't need another way to get advantage. It's silly. So one of my kind of goals or aspirations for this campaign is to institute a new mechanic for inspiration. And what that is yet? Well, not entirely sure. I've been experimenting with the idea of like a save slot similar to Baldur's Gate or any other like video game, which is really daring because it goes way beyond what a roleplay game kind of is or feels like with the story. I don't know if I want to institute a save slot for my players yet. I'm not sure. So well, I'm not here to wait for one D&D, and I'm also not here to help them make a new game. So I'll keep playing 5e as I see fit. But I mean, I guess maybe what it does create is it creates an opportunity for me to really kind of make myself stand out as a DM. I'm gonna create my own way to use inspiration, and I want to create a way that I and my players fall in love with. So I thought about a save slot, and then so the reason I think about a save slot, Angry, is because I've seen several times with my players and with just players I've played with, you know, the community, I guess, my general perception of it. People get like really timid and they get really scared with their characters sometimes. And it's either you have this main character syndrome where your player is too beholden to the existence of their character, they love them too much and the idea of them, or they're just this really crazy, chaotic person that has no regard for life or no regard for their party's intentions, right? And I was like, red flag, bad and bad, you know? So like, what I think about with the save slot is it creates the idea of, hey, we can try something and fail, and we won't lose anything because of it. We won't lose this character that I think is so important. We won't lose the story that we've been working on for so long, right? And in my personal opinion, you can just remake a new character at any point in time and just add them to the story and just keep telling the story, but people don't feel that way for some reason. And I feel like maybe if players had access to a save slot in D&D, their characters might act a little differently, maybe a little bit more true to how the meta version of that character would think and act. And you could detach the person and their love for this character that they created with just a simple method of a save slot. And again, my personal opinion, I feel like there's tons of ways thematically through roleplay that we can resurrect your character, and we can have a lot of fun doing that. But that doesn't happen. People don't like doing that, and people get really caught up when their character goes down. And it's even D&D 5e, it's really hard to die, but people still get super self-conscious when they fucking go down and when their character, you know, like, it's just like this weird main character syndrome, and it's not like your quintessential main character, it's like a subset or an offshoot of main character syndrome, I think. But like it takes away from the game, in my opinion. But so on that thinking, right, I feel like if we were to compare Dungeons and Dragons and how we play it as a community to, say, Baldur's Gate or Skyrim, right? Though we would be playing like a hardcore version. We would be playing a version in which there are no saves. There's no meta information like character stats or HP totals. You know, like we kind of lose ourselves in this meta immersion that we're supposed to play in. And I think it creates some really good story. I think there are a lot of good pros to it. But I think at the end of the day, like in comparison to like Baldur's Gate or Skyrim, you know, where we have these save slots where we get to see these stats on the enemies, we get to see the percentages on our spells. It's like we're playing hardcore versions of those games. And I feel like the community, especially 5e community, isn't like a hardcore community, because those people play Blades in the Dark. Those people play Shadowrun. You know, like the hardcore communities, they find much more complex systems to play, and they play those. So I like this idea of maybe utilizing a save slot, or, you know, in that concept of, you know, what is meta knowledge that we say is bad to know, but could add to the game possibly. Maybe stats. So maybe the inspiration slot isn't a save slot, but maybe it's a slot that we can use to determine the strength or the constitution score of a creature that we can see within 60 feet. Maybe we can determine how many spell slots are left, or like the value of those spell slots. And maybe different classes have different ways to utilize those inspiration points to garner information that, in my opinion, is going to add to the story and give them advantage and allow them to kind of be better, play better, or act grander. You know, if you can confirm the Constitution score, then your party can really, you know, throw the house down on a few spells and kick somebody's butt. And they wouldn't be able to do that if they didn't know that the con was 10. They'd have to figure it out and kind of wade through battle a little bit. But just some ideas I've been working on. Wanted to run them by you. Has someone joined me on the Lore Masters? I did. Hey, Ben.
I didn't want to interrupt your waxing poetic.
I was in a thought, but to be honest, you've heard this thought before, because I run most of my ideas by you before I settle on anything.
How's the arm?
What's that?
How's the arm?
It's good. I've been doing pretty good, I guess. I think my mom's right. The second surgery goes by a little bit easier than the first. Yeah, so I'm chilling. I can't stop. I'm addicted. I'm back to creating. I'm back to streaming. I'm back to doing it all. It's been 3 days. I'm like, I'm not stopping. I'm gonna make more and do more, and I'm loving it. And I need like something to do while I sit here and recover. So
Times. Glad you're feeling better.
Thanks, man. Angry Meatball. You think what is good in theory? I feel like I rambled a bit, so I'm not sure. Hey PCM, what's up? Thanks for joining. Oh, it's Meatball's friend. Cool. Meatball, you brought your friends. Thanks. You know, that is a fair point, you know, but like I feel like inspiration's doing nothing. It's not anything. And just to make it an advantage, it's like, it's so lame. But I feel a little bit timid in the sense that I might be putting too much on inspiration. I might be making it too big of a thing. And maybe I need to dial it back a little bit. And maybe it's not an advantage, but maybe something smaller than advantage, even. But I feel like I want it to be something that helps the story. So here's an idea. This is a literal mechanic from Blades in the Dark. And you can add or change something to the story canon. So, say I had a pip or an inspiration point, or whatever you want to call it, and we role-played our way through the town guard's gate, and we get there and we're talking to the guard, and the guard's like, yeah, but did you pay 5 gold at the ticket vendor to get a ticket into the concert? And you're all sitting there looking at each other like, fuck, like we actually forgot. to go to the vendor and get that ticket. We have gold, but like we don't have the ticket. You know, you could just use your inspiration point to say, hey, we went back in time and we added this ticket to our character's player hand, and now the story continues. So like in Blades in the Dark, they literally give you the ability to manipulate the story, and you can kind of like use it to your advantage. So like say you're in a fight and you see a cluster of dudes in the back of a room, you add to the story that this room has pipes of exploding qualities, and one of those pipes is behind that group of people you want to blow up, and now your player can shoot the pipe instead of the players blow up the pipe that wasn't there before, but you added to the story to make the story you wanted. So maybe it's a little bit more into roleplay what I want to do with inspiration.
That's how magic works in World of Darkness. It's all about plausibility and you making up stuff. And if you bend reality in a plausible way, it'll work. And people believe you, it'll work.
But the thing that I like about the Blades in the Dark mechanic is it's like guaranteed 100%. It's like it is the story, it is the meta, and it's really cool as a player character to be able to control that in some aspect, because normally like the DM just gives you the world you're in and gives you what you're working with. So like as a player in Blades in the Dark, I was really excited to be like, oh, like I could just like add something to the story. Like what's something really cool that I can add to the scene that just makes it really cool and like makes us like have a really cool getaway, you know, like it really gets your players thinking and like trying to be a part of the story, which is like what it's all about. You want to inspire people to tell the story with you. I am everywhere. Well, it's nice to have you here at PCM. We've been just kind of rambling in our world building here. I'm creating a new campaign for my players that I don't even know who they are yet. I need to start finding them. I need to get on Play Now and start finding my players, but we will have a very fleshed out campaign for them that is prepared just enough and not too much. Let's see. Tier 1, Town Guard. Tier 2, I think we get into like, that's when guilds start and jobs. Or trades. Guilds or trades. Because these people are going to need money. Because there's another thing I haven't told y'all yet. So, I've tried Milestone. I don't like Milestone because I feel like it's too removed from the players and kind of just blasé at the end of the day. It's like, oh yeah, you level up. And you can try and get really intricate with it, but I feel like the more you do it, the deeper you get into the campaign, the lazier you get with milestoning. So what I want to do is not do XP leveling, but gold-based XP leveling. And so essentially, if you make 100,000 gold, you'll be level 5. If you make 200,000 gold, you'll be level 7. If you make 500,000 gold, you'll be level 10, etc., etc. And gold will be given at the end of every fight. Gold will be given at the end of quests. Gold will be given at the end of adventures when they sneak into places and find things. Gold will be like, gold is always given. And I feel like it's like that is the experience point. That's it. Like we don't need gold and XP. We just tie them together. So it's another experiment I'm trying. I'm experimenting with gold XP and inspiration point. Guilds, trades. We've rehashed the Daggerford story, Ben. Oh, nice. You've worked with Gold XP before. How did you? Can I ask you, Angry Meatball, how you kind of like incorporated it? I was wondering if I should like have them like literally purchase levels, or if they just have the gold, they are the level. So therefore they could use the gold to better themselves past the level that they already are at. So like if I had 100,000 gold, I could be level 10, and I could have 2 very rare items, as opposed to I use 100,000 gold to be level 10. Now I have no items. You know what I'm saying? How did you kind of institute it? Oh, Ben, you want to know what I found out? That a lot of the story of Daggerford is going to be post Dragonfire. Have you heard of Dragonfire?
No, I have not.
So Dragonfire is a deck building card game made by Wizards of the Coast that tells the story of Carnasil, the red dragon that's released upon Daggerford that wreaks havoc and Dragonfire across the northern side of the Sword Coast. And it's kind of like a role-play list D&D card game that you're like actually playing classes with stats and rolling dice, just like D&D mechanics. Just like strip the story out. So essentially, half of the city is going to be burnt by Dragonfire. Do you know what that means, Ben?
Time to rebuild?
Time to rebuild, and that means that I can have a big blank-ass fucking map with half-built structures that's not fully fleshed out, that the players will then get to flesh out, and I can slowly flesh out as they play. So as my players play this campaign, they're literally going to be in a VTT that evolves around them, and the city is going to build and get more and more fleshed out as they play from level 1 to 20. And I'm really excited to show my players like the potential of DA as a DM tool. It's so exciting.
Kind of sounds like you're focused more on like a merchant campaign.
Yeah, there was definitely a more merchant vibe to this campaign, merchant and politics. Not so much of a dungeon crawl or like a go slay the dragon campaign, as that's pretty much what Dragonfire is. So there's the story of this dragon kind of erupting in Daggerford and raining fire across the coast, and there quite literally is a campaign and a story of the players and the adventurers that followed that path and chased the dragon down and conquered that story, right? But what we're telling is the story of Daggerford that was left behind, and what happens to the city after the dragon left and after those adventurers left. So yeah, there's definitely a good theme of commerce and politics that will be relevant to be played with. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's like I was telling Angry, like I'm really just like creating mechanics that I can use to make story. So like if the players don't want to be in a guild, or they don't see interest in being commerce related, and they just want to gain levels and be an adventure squad, like they can just get gold and do that and just ignore all that stuff. There's no necessary need, like, because again, gold will be the equivalent of XP that's given at the end of every creature that's killed. So if you want to just play a regular XP dungeon and crawl and go and find beasts and monsters to slay inside the city, there's going to be plenty of stuff. Then you could just do that. I think that's an important facet of a game, is to let the players play what they want to play, and as a DM you need to facilitate that. Let's see, so Angry says that they needed gold to buy. Once they have the gold, they have the level, and then they get to use the gold to buy things. balance spending and necessity. Yeah, I guess it is kind of needless bookkeeping. Of an unfamiliar place. Yeah, so I'm just not sure. I guess what I'm concerned about really is just balance. In that sense, I don't know why my mic's being janky. There we go. Not. But like, I don't want to have. I don't want to have to give players this really large amount of gold in order for them to obtain level 20 and then have them be like so overly like you understand this, Ben, like the mercenary thing where you're like, this character needs gold, but if they have all the gold they're kind of broken. I'm not sure about how that's gonna, because I've never done gold XP before. So I'm new. So I guess I'll ask a few more people about their experiences with it.
As a DM, you have to balance both systems to balance your party's power level, and you're just gonna have to see. Well, you can do the paper exercise of if you convert XP to gold 1-to-1, what does that buy people?
Yeah, what does that look like?
As far as power at that level, that's probably a pretty good exercise to do beforehand.
Yeah.
I don't know what the XP curve looks like. We've been playing Milestone for so long.
Yeah, sometime, right? I'm actually going to look at it now because I have no idea what the XP curve looks like.
But I mean, if you're at 100,000 gold at level 10, I mean that's a legendary item.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
want your party to have a legendary item at
level 10. Yeah, like that's it can be problematic. It can be. So yeah, definitely. And I guess the other thing that comes into question when we're attaching XP to gold is, very importantly, is like the market economy. What does 100,000 gold buy you? And what is that going to say for other things? So I think a good place to start is, yeah, like you said, just do an XP rendition 1-to-1, like see what it looks like, and then see what the economy would look like on a 1-to-1 ratio.
And then you have to decide whether you have to use it or if they're mutually exclusive. Like if you only get the power to level or the power to spend it.
Yeah. So I think that's Angry said in their experience, it feels like unnecessary. Like it feels like you've already tallied it and then you have to tally it a second time to spend it. So it's like, what's the point? Like, just in my opinion, just find balance in the first iteration of it as opposed to adding a second check to it. But hey, maybe I'll find something that I like, or yeah, I don't know. And I also like I want gold. I want to figure out some type of feasible economic that makes sense, because I feel like gold and silver and like D&D economy in general is like laughable and very sporadic and not good. And if this is going to be a commerce-based campaign, then it should have I should have some inkling on how the economics are going to work in my game. So I think some number searching is going to be very important here. Let's see. Home. Milestone XP confirm. Let's see. So level 1 to 2 is 300 XP. challenge experience. Two to three is okay, so it is cumulative. Nice. So that's another 600. So 300 gets you to 1, 900 gets you to 3. Level 10 is 64,000. That's honestly not that bad.
That's very rare.
And some change.
Two rares.
And then level 20 is 355,000. But like at level 20, it's like they should be busting the seams. They should be like crazy power, you know, like. Yeah, I mean, depending on what the link is, Angry, I may or may not open it. I mean, for medieval Europe in 1300 and 1600, it's compiled of UC Berkeley, by UC Berkeley, if you'd like to take a look. Tweaking to the economy. I feel like, in my opinion, I don't really care about medieval Europe in 1300 and 1600, and maybe you do, and it's not to say like that's a bad thing, but personally, in my opinion, I feel like it doesn't need to have real world implications. It needs to have story based implications. It needs to serve the purpose I need it to serve, which is create a balanced storytelling mechanic for my players to enjoy level 1 to 20, and not be like, wow, like we have no money and we're level 5 and this sucks, you know, like. But also like we have all the money in the world and we're level 7 and this is kind of silly, you know, like, because I've been in both of those games, and you know, like, balances everything for the player. What are you up to, Ben?
I was building models this afternoon.
Nice. You just had Warhammer, right?
Yeah. I'm in a slow grow league, or an escalation league for 40K. So I'm building some of the new Sisters models.
Nice, nice. Last time you said it was you had just added another 200 points, right? You're doing, it's like platoons.
We were at 500, and now we're at 1,000.
Nice, nice.
I've got plenty of old pewter models painted and ready to go, but I'm trying to get the plastic stuff.
Dude, the classic pewters, though, they just got that feel.
New sculpts.
They got the weight to them.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the paint chips off real easy, so I'm playing with it. It's not always stress-free.
Yeah, the more you play with it. That's cool. So you had the Sisters. What do you have equipped on them? Or do they come to stock stuff?
I'm assembling the Paragon warsuits right now, and they all have choice of multi-melta, heavy flamer, heavy bolter, and I'm assembling them so you can kind of switch out those guns. And that seems to work okay without any magnets for this sculpt. But their other hand is a close combat weapon, and I've had to pin the one on the sergeant. So I just have a hole through both the hand and the arm, and
Nice.
pin glued to the arm side that the hand can slide on and off.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely
And
a nifty
then-
trick.
Because there's not enough meat down there to have a magnet. But
Dude,
so the sergeants have like a lap joint. So you just drill straight through and pin both sides.
nice.
Unfortunately, the non-sergeant, the other two war suits have like a the hand is sculpted into the arm, and it's like a cupped hand, and the only thing molded onto the weapon is like fingers of the hand like closing around itself. I don't know if there's enough meat on the weapon side to do anything, so I might just have to glue them in. Or cut the arm off, but I don't really know if that's worth it.
Sometimes it is worth it though, because you can like re-glue the whole piece down, like sturdy, or like put a what's it called? A fucking like a tourniquet, if you will. You know, you can like brace things.
Oh,
I've-
yeah,
I've
like
very-
a pin or
Yeah, like a pin, but like two on the outside, and glue it down, and paint them to make them blend in.
a
Like
splint.
a splint. That's a splint. But like yeah, I very quickly learned that because I played Eldar, and I had
Mhm.
all the big ass tanks with the big ass Lost
Mhm.
cannons and fucking shit on them. And like I had these giant pewter crystals that like I just had to mount on these turrets that would rotate. And I was like, oh my god, it's so hard to keep these things together.
Yep. Especially in the old pewter,
Mm.
you used to have to pin everything in pewter. The plastic models have come a long way.
Some things I like pewter, but like in that sense, like turrets and guns, they operate much better when they're light and dainty.
I mean, the vintage stuff certainly has appeal, but the just detail and intricacy of the plastic models has come light years.
I totally agree with that. And the way with this, so some people be painting these models, they definitely freaking makes it shine. You can get so intricate with your painting. Okay. I think I'm ready to get into some Diablo this week. Play some one-handed sorcerer. Get back on my grindy grind.
Your arms up for it?
No, I'll just play one-handed. Like I said, I'll slap the controller off my knee.
Ah, there you go.
But yeah, I'm feeling really good. I mean, maybe it's just the oxy's talking, but I feel like I have much more use and function than I did in the first surgery. Let's see. I think my brain is just like, I'm all world builded out. I don't have anything left to throw on this paper right now. I need to dive into XP and get serious about some stuff. So we're just hanging out. We're just chilling. Angry, you never told me about your other world. The one you're currently playing. Yes, this campaign is brought to you in part by the pharmacists at Mass General. And just for posterity and let the record state, like, I did have a very intricate surgery. Invasive. They removed a piece of my bone from my spine and my rib cage. So, yeah, definitely got a few months of recovery. I'm looking at here. Ben, did you get to catch any of the semifinals?
I watched the first game this morning of Weibo. What's its face?
Weibo Gaming.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. They go to 5.
Yeah, I watched the. Actually, I watched the first 2.
They go to 5, and it's just like, it's so impressive watching Eastern gameplay with League, because
They're
like,
way
they're just-
better than us.
they're so much better. Like, they're leagues beyond. Like, they play a game in and of their own game. Like, you can watch a team literally give up every objective on the map for 25 minutes and then be like, yeah, that's what we were waiting for. Now we turn on and you have no chance. And it's like, you're like, wow, you're like, how is this team just like good? It's like, oh my god, dude, you can never count any of them out. Any mistake is just brutally freaking taken advantage of. Like, a world of their own.
I'll be right back.
Sure, yeah. So I think tier 4 is going to be... Do we want that to be... No, yes. Tier 3 is story. There's more here. There's always more cooking around. Angry. The brain never stops. This is why I just like had to get the stream back going, because like it just doesn't. This fantasy just doesn't stop. And then tier 4 is ascension. I want these players to ascend to something beyond. I want them to either leave Daggerford and do something epic, or stay there and do something epic. A lot of different eras, and we jump around right now. Interesting. Like, do the characters jump around like time travel? Okay, so the players jump around in this world with different sessions of campaign or story being told. Kind of like a Western March in your own world with the same party. Nice. Honestly, so like my brain was thinking about Western March and I was like, like we love creating these really big grand stories that are important and we want them to feel like they affect the world. And I think as a outside looking in, a Western March seems really cool because you're like, yeah, what we do as players affects the world. But in reality, like what you four people did at a table over the course of a year is only really important to you four people, and that story will never be as big or as grand to anybody else, even if you like write the history into the groundworks. It's cool to have those facets, but like the majority of the story is lost when you have a whole new group or an entirely different party. But on that, like you have said with your party, if you have like a good core members and you're able to keep that turnover decent and like, get people up to speed with the new people that come in and kind of keep this core thematic of the ideas of your campaigns, like you can carry that over. And I feel like the Western March kind of applies a bit more to a core group like that, and is like really really cool in that aspect. That's fun. So I feel like that's really where I want to get to. Either I want to have a campaign that's extremely rerunnable, like a Daggerford, where I can just keep reiterating it in different fashions, and or just keep telling the story and keep making a new story around it, right? So perhaps Daggerford has ties with, the Philocians, the Philocian family. Maybe like the next campaign could be a story of the Philocians. Maybe there's a campaign of people that want to chase after the Dragonfire, and we tell the Dragonfire game story as an actual role playable, like manipulative story that you can it's tangible. Maybe Daggerford's it, and it's not there yet, and I don't know it. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. I feel like things like that grow to that point, and I don't feel like they're created all at once. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can give me insight on how your campaign kind of got to that point. Be right back. Get a drink. Stay hydrated, fool. Nice, yeah. And just kind of the story you built with your friends stuck and the party stuck. I feel like that's kind of where our campaign took off with Friday night. San very much has a very large headcanon of their world and the events and the different things going on. I think is one of those dungeon masters, like we were saying earlier, Angry, that like has the ability to tell the story to their players, but allow their players to be a part of it in a way that they're not forcing it at the players, and they're letting the players be a part of that story being told, you know. Yeah, very much that, right? It's honestly, I don't know. It's like the goal, right? The story don't ever stop, and those are my favorite campaigns. The ones that like they keep you chomping at the bit in between sessions. Like you and your party mates are like still chatting about the game and like thinking about what you want to do, like midweek, like on lunch break, and then like you all meet up on Friday night and you're like, yes, like we've been waiting all week for this. We've been talking all week about this. We finally get to like execute what we've been talking about. Oh, there's leaguers on tonight, isn't there? 3 a.m. in the morning. I guess we could put a little Gambale on the docket for Faker. Throwing up for Faker, am I right? The guy's still out there doing it.
T1 looked pretty good.
You can never count them out. Yeah, I woke up this morning just because, like, coming from the hospital and being on this, like, super weird sleep schedule, like, my schedule's, like, way off. So, like, I just, like, woke up at 5:30 and was like, I'm awake. Like, this is life. Like, I'm alive right now. I also need, like, medication because it's been 4 hours. But, what I told Amanda, I was like, yeah, I literally woke up and was like, oh, it's 5:30. Let me just roll over and go back to sleep. And then I roll over and I'm like, the fuck? You just had surgery 3 days ago. You can't just roll over and go back to sleep. Like, get up and fucking attend to yourself, you dumbass. But it was very early, and that means that they were playing games over on the other side of the world. So I got to watch it live. Right, but like, I don't know. I feel both ways about that. I feel like that's a catch-all that DMs use to ensure that they don't have to poke their players with a stick to get them going, to have them have incentive and stuff. But in my opinion, like, the players should just do that on their own, and it shouldn't be beholden to a goal that they have to place for themselves as a character. Like, they should just be willing to chase the carrot on the stick, because that's the whole point of why we came to the table to play this game. You know, like, and very much like part of finding a crew that you can play with indefinitely for like a long period of time is finding the people that see D&D in the light that I guess it's supposed to be seen in, and not like a video game or like a solo game or like a device to tell people my story, you know. And sometimes you gotta wade through some of the community to find that. You know, there's people that are searching. They don't know if they like D&D, if it's for them, right? Like, so there's people that are learning and searching. I tend to enjoy playing campaigns with more experienced players, just because it kind of omits a lot of that conversation. And that's why I think like one shots are great for new players, because it's minimal responsibility and involvement. It's 3 to 4 hours of your time to see if you like it, and if you do, we'll do it again. If you like it more, we'll keep doing it. And if you like it enough, we'll find a session that does it every week, you know? Turn that one shot into a weekly game. Man, Underdogs has expanded your options for League of Legends picks. Let's see. Owner, Faker. Two kills in map 1. 7 kills on the first 3 maps. What do you think? Do you think T1's gonna come out early? Let's look at their games.
I think T1's gonna win.
3-0. 2-0. Have they played Weibo this? 1-0. Jesus, is T1 fucking undefeated? No, they lost in the first round. Okay, Jesus. I was like, did T1 just like walk in and just not lose a game?
Close.
They've lost 1 game to fucking Genji in a one-off. Other than that, they've been straight stomping. But you know, you can't count Weibo Gaming out. You got Zhao Hu. You got the Shy, who's been playing very well. He had a weird game on Quinn. You'll see that game 4. Thanks, Angry. I hope everything's okay. I'll definitely be on this week. I'll revamp my schedule for everybody now that I'm back in the house. Take it easy, Angry. Let's see. Let's also look up some stats. Probably easier to do stats on the computer. T1 stats LOL. Kills per game 16, deaths 11. Faker, KDA 2.8, owner's been tearing at a 4.5, bot lane tearing at a 7.6, carry 7.6. I want to just throw down for Faker because I love Faker. And I feel like every time you throw down for Faker, he just turns out in in those games, dude. He just turns out in those finals. Weibo Gaming, how do you spell that?
EIBO?
I got it. You wanna know what's faster than asking your friends? Using the auto finder on your Google search bar.
There you go.
Technology. All about the technology. Why doesn't it have worlds? That's so stupid. Oh, world championship. God damn it. I think I'm gonna turn the stream off and call it a night there. Peace, peace. We'll be on soon.
Yeah.